I also had a relative who had recently bought a car, so I had taken that vehicle and made a turn at the Bredell Cemetery. And coming back, I was well within where I live, the street that I live in Tembisa. I was sitting with a neighbor who was on the passenger seat, and 3 men came up to the vehicle that I was in. They came there. The one that came around to the driver's seat cocked a firearm and pointed it to me. I had the windows down. And he then demanded that I switch off the vehicle. So he put his hand in to try and reach for the keys on the ignition, but it's not the kind that you start manually with the key, it's those press buttons. And there was a lot of things that was being said. Behind me, as I was on the driver's seat, another came in, and there was this sharp metal object against my neck. Initially, I thought, yes, a knife that's going to slit my throat, only to discover that that is a firearm. And that, I think what hurt me the most with everything that was said at that point, it was then, it is things that are work-related. And the fact that, they want a phone from me and the information which they want, and the fact that they would be, sorry, commissioners. I was hit on the head with a firearm. The accosters shoved me to the side of the passenger seat. They got into the car and they drove off. They drove past my house, and I could see my neighbor who's literally looking inside the vehicle to identify who the drivers are.
Ms. Thepa, should we take a short adjournment for you to compose yourself, perhaps?
Please, Commissioner.
Let us adjourn. You will please indicate to us, Ms. Mhlaseka.
Here's a brief adjournment there to allow the EMPD media officer to compose herself as she continues to give evidence before the Madlanga Commission there. Now, Kelebogile Thepa, Lieutenant, takes the stand as you heard there. The room feels somewhat different, and it's not just another witness that was giving testimony there. She talks about many instances that, she essentially saw her life flash before her eyes, and in this instance, she says it was in 1 July of 2023 where she says 3 men came up to her vehicle and cocked a firearm and pointed it at her. And this is evidence on what she first called the blue lights scandal at the start of the commission. And as she speaks, you heard there her questions, as the questions also shifted, they were no longer about policy manuals or procedural memos. They were also about how those people who were trying to just merely do their jobs were affected by all of these alleged criminals that were busy running and pulling the strings there. But also we heard there that in that moment that the so-called blue light scandal that she is detailing there is no longer just an abstract debate about, oversight. It became personal there as she continues to give her testimony there. We park it there as she takes that moment to compose herself. We'll be taking you back to the Bridget Mabandla Justice College as and when the commission continues. And as you heard there, this is day 31 now. now, the spokesperson for the EMPD, you know, she started her testimony by referring to this blue lights scandal. Even that phrase itself, you know, many, even the analysts that have been sitting there have said this details what's actually at stake there, which is the interplay between authority, between privilege and the boundaries of lawful conduct there. And as she laid out her account throughout the course of the morning, you heard there how attention also turned to how blue light privileges were allegedly used or misused in this case by individuals within the system, is what she is saying. And the questions being put to her now, as you also heard, they are not just about, you know, the technicalities or the procedures. They go into the integrity of law enforcement culture, where powers used to serve the public or to service individuals, or some individuals at least. And her testimony falls into a broader pattern, as you heard there, that has emerged over the past 31 days or so, as we heard there coming out of the commission, a pattern of blurred lines of political pressure filtering into operational spaces where it simply does not belong. Let's bring in Ayanda Nyati, who's going to put things into perspective for us this hour. So, Ayanda, we heard there the EMPD media officer there getting emotional as she was telling the commission about some of those instances where she felt like her life was in danger. Talk to us about this.
Absolutely, Mxolisi. At some stage, I think you could hear a penny drop as this room really honed in on the testimony that was being offered by Kelebogile Thepa. As you mentioned, she's the head of the EMPD, head of communications, I beg your pardon, in this metro. And essentially, she's, as we had expected, kicked things off by helping us understand how she learned of this inquiry from Jeff Wicks, which seems to be the event that really set in motion the series of events that have unfolded as detailed by a number of witnesses who've taken to the stand in this inquiry. Let's continue giving you a bit more context and bring in Kenny Mapanga, who's with us once again. And Kenny, perhaps we can pick up really from where this witness has just left off, breaking down as she details how essentially she felt her life was under threat because some people, as she mentioned, were clearly not pleased with how she handled this inquiry.
Indeed, and I think it also speaks to the role of IPID, the police watchdog, in this overall probe into the blue light saga, because it seems, or it appears, or what is suggested through the evidence is that when there were these probes, a lot of these officers who were called in to assist in these probes were left like in the line of fire when they gave the information that was needed. Because the question that comes up when you hear the testimony is that she states that when she was first called by IPID to do, I guess, to come in to give a statement regarding this blue lights issue that had come about and had caused a lot of traction, not only in the media, but in the EMPD itself and as well as in the public. So essentially what she's saying is that she stated at the outset that she had concerns about this particular investigation by IPID and her participation in it and what it would mean for her personally. And I think that has been laid bare before the commission, because the question one needs to ask is, how did Brigadier Mkhwanazi know that IPID had spoken to this particular individual to get information as to how this query was dealt with and what exactly the intimate details were of that query? I mean, how did he know that this individual was involved? And then, of course, the subsequent actions that followed towards her after that, what was that a result of? Because it seems that once it was revealed that she is one of the individuals that had been called in to give a statement to IPID, she then details this, I guess, horrific incident that takes place where she's approached by these three men who then come with firearms, and she's stating that it was clearly quite a violent incident because she says she was hit on the head with a firearm and that they had gotten into the vehicle and driven off. And that's when she completely breaks down and is unable to complete the testimony. So I think although we are discussing the overall alleged reign of Brigadier Mkhwanazi within the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department and how many casualties were left behind when they challenged or assisted or did their jobs with respect to this blue light saga, another question that comes up, or another theme that needs to be explored, is the role of IPID in this particular probe, and whether there was actually a genuine intention by the police watchdog to actually probe this issue or not, or did they allegedly leave these officers in harm's way when they assisted with these different probes?
We live in a country where, rampant crime is prevalent, and I suppose many people will be asking the question around why she thought that incident was linked to her work. But as she told commissioners here, the gunmen apparently were asking very specific questions about her job.
Indeed, they wanted her phone, they wanted to know who she had been communicating with. So what is being suggested is that this incident was directly related to her handling of the Blue Light saga. And we've heard from evidence earlier that when she received that media query, that she immediately sent it to Commissioner Spies to look at. And then, of course, he then stated that there would be an internal investigation to look at this document, which they believed it was fake. It seems what is being suggested is that Brigadier Mkhwanazi may have allegedly wanted the query to come to him directly and not through the channels that she had, decided to use. And there's nothing that tells us from the evidence that that is the approach that was supposed to be taken by the spokesperson. So it seemed that the consequences followed the manner in which she had gone about dealing with that query. I'm sure we'll hear further evidence, if it is even possible for her to return to the stand, as to what the correct protocol was and if she was in any way supposed to go to Mkhwanazi and first speak to him, or if it was supposed to be dealt with as a normal communications query through the relevant authorities to give the answers, because it initially was about the Blue Light saga and, of course, these vehicles that were registered, not necessarily about Mkhwanazi himself.
Yeah, at some stage we hear that apparently these inquiries should now be centralized through the city manager's office. Once again, that office comes up. Imogen Mashazi was in that role, a name which we've heard several times.
Indeed. And then it speaks again to this recurring theme of this apparent shield or alleged shield that was given or afforded to Brigadier Mkhwanazi.
Yeah, let me just cut you there, Kenny, because it seems the commissioners might be making their way back. I see the witness is once again back on the witness box, which suggests to us that once again we are about to resume with this inquiry. Kelebogile Thepa is the witness in the stand, and of course the commissioners are now walking in. Let's take a listen.
Hello, Mr. Thepa. Let's continue if you can.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
As I had stated that sometime in July 2023, it was on a Saturday where I had gone to my late mother's grave, situated in Bredell, and on my way back, I had parked just in the street that I live in. I had a neighbor who was sitting on the passenger seat when three accosters, came to the vehicle that I was driving. The one came onto the driver's side. The one sat behind me at behind the driver's seat, and the one had closed in the passenger that was sitting on the side. And after seeing that firearm, and when you work with firearm, you think that you have it under control up until it happens to you. So he cocks a firearm, points at me, and then he reaches to switch off the ignition, but he cannot because it is those push start button vehicles. And he instructs